Dr. Chuck, the science schmuck.
Synchronize. You can't tell, but this is the third time I've started this video. I'm having the hardest time doing this intro sequence. I think if I stare as hard as I can at the camera, it might make me more powerful. Oh. Something burst somewhere. Okay, regardless. Birds. I have mixed feelings on birds. I like looking at them. They're adorable. They look fuzzy. They're not that fuzzy because they're covered in feathers, not fur. Except them kiwis. They're covered in feathers, but they're all soft. But I've never actually seen a kiwi because I'm not New Zealandish. New Zealandish? What are the people from New Zealand called? New Zealandishians. Regardless, I like feeding birds. Not with my hands. I've met conures before, and they don't like me. I actually used to work at a pet store until I started scaring customers and had to leave. I'd like a bird feeder to feed birds with. They sell them at the store, and they're very cheap, but buying a bird feeder at the store just sounds dull. The reason I do things is not... I build all sorts of stuff that you can buy for cheaper. The point isn't even for this YouTube channel because nobody watches it. The point is I like building things. I like doing things with my hands. Look, that's a number of fingers that are still connected. I might as well enjoy it before I lose one at work by sticking my thumb in the robot again. This is what I'll make the bird feeders out of. What is it? Well, this is a piece of pipe. Steel galvanized pipe that I found in the woods. Not exactly in the woods, but on the ground near the woods. It's very similar to the type of pipe that would hold up a chain link fence. I cannot confirm or deny where it came from exactly, although it does, it clearly got damaged pretty heavily by something, and that does remind me of something that I think it's important for me to say, but that would really only be useful to people who live exactly where I live, so I'm not going to bother saying it because none of you care. The point is, something heavy hit this at high speed and broke it, and it's scrap. And nobody wants it, nobody needed it, it would just be thrown into the woods, at a raccoon or something. I hope not. Poor raccoon. I didn't throw it at a raccoon because the raccoons and I have sort of a tenuous agreement. I'm still negotiating with the woodchuck. I want to turn this into a bird feeder because I have it and I figure I should use it for something. So, what do I need to do first? That'll be the part off camera because it'll take a long time and a lot of sweating because it's really humid down here. Humid and full of radon. You should have seen how my daisies came up down here. Like mutants also. It's very, very radioactive, so I can't be down here too long. Pretty much. It's hollow, kinda. So the part that's going to turn into the part that holds the seed is the hollow part, which is the whole of the part, except this weird part where something that may or may not have been a car destroyed whatever pipe this was that was probably not a piece of a fence. Definitely. So I got to take this. I see. That joke is hilarious. If you don't get it, it's because you don't. Because your brain is not adequately smooth. I've got the smoothest brain in town. It can't even be washed because it's already wrinkle-free. Dry clean only. With a carbon tetrafluoride. So I will have to cut right through that with this hacksaw, which you hack with, clearly. But before that, I will have to drill holes. So the type of feeder I'm building is a vertically aligned tube feeder. So that's the kind where it is a tube and it has a bunch of small holes for the birds to eat at the side. So let me flash you forward to the point where I have finished sweating my way through this. Well, I did what I needed to do for the cutting application. So, it's kind of awkward doing these videos because you don't actually see the manufacturing. The problem is, the manufacturing is boring. I can tell you how I did it in 10 seconds if I don't get sidetracked. So, I used the hacksaw, I used the drill, and I used the hammer. Wait a second, what was the hammer used for? Nails. This looks very aggressive. It looks like a beating stick. Oh, I almost did beat myself in the head. I pounded nails into it. Not actually. See, something that is confusing is nails are very soft. You cannot actually pound them into steel. So I had to use the small drill bits to drill pilot holes, the same size as the nails, or slightly smaller. Then you can just pound the nails into the holes. The idea of the nails is that it's upside down. Bloop. The idea of the nails is that it gives birds a place to stand, and these larger holes are where the seed comes out, and that's what they eat. Now, not every type of bird feeder requires a place for the birds to stand, nor is the size necessarily that correct. This is probably too small, but it's kind of designed for goldfinches specifically, which are one of my favorites. They are short birds, they're little. So a little space is probably better, and it creates a difficulty for larger birds to take the food, but I mean, this could be modified. You could drill more holes to make it deeper. You could remove these and force the birds to do it the hard way. Now the problem is, it's tubular. And I don't mean in the 80s sense, although it is kind of tubular. I need to find a way to plug that hole, or else when I put the seed in the top end, all the seed will come out the bottom end instead of going into the top end of a bird and coming out the bottom end of said bird on my car. To do that, I had to do some kludging. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to pronounce it. I believe it's kludge, but I'm not French. How am I going to seal it off? Wood. I got a stick from a tree. I didn't cut it off the tree. It was in my basement for some reason. I guess it was a tree that was cut down that I then used for something. I have attached fishing line, 30-pound style. Do note that fishing line over time does decay when exposed to sunlight. It gets brittle, so this may collapse over time eventually. I tied it to a washer. So there's a hole that I drilled in the wood through the center of it, so it attaches like that. Meaning that all I should need to do is figure out a way to thread. You know, it seems like such a simple thing. It's one of those annoying things where the simplest things are almost always the hardest things. Fortunately, I have this, this is a different type of blade used for hacksaws that I had taken out of my hacksaw so that I could put the regular blade on, which actually went through this metal relatively nice. It's weirdly soft for steel. And then I just lower that and the weight should just pull it through. Then, this particular stick has nubbins on the side, so it can grab on. That will not hold most of the seed in at that shape, so I'm going to go around it with hot glue. Hot glue is nice because it should hold it on, but at the same time it should also be removable if I need to take it apart for cleaning. But you say, well, hot glue is not going to hold that on. That's the interesting part. Nubbins, because there were sticks. It's maple. Maple has the sticks on maple grow out parallel to each other. So opposing, not parallel. Parallel trees would be weird, like a tree with just a bunch of parallel branches. That'd be crazy. So it grabs on, and look how it's attached to this line. The line runs through the center of the feeder, pulling on tension on that bottom wood plug to keep it held up straight. Of course, it does require a cap. Generally speaking, you want to have a cap on these so that when it rains, not too much water gets in. I happen to have these. They're ketchup containers because I go to like Five Guys and get all the ketchup because it's free, and then I just not actually. I bought these because they're very efficient for starting seeds. I have some marigolds, very pretty marigolds in my front yard. I was working on the irrigation system earlier today, and that will water them in the future, but we'll get to that in another episode. Again, it has a hole in it, which was originally drilled for drainage purposes. If I could get the hole to straighten properly. And this one, the hole is not ideal, but the idea is that it will be straight over the top, or roughly over the top, to keep water from getting in, and thereby protecting the seed for the most part. So that is, I mean, I will have to hot glue it before I put outside, but that is functionally the end product. I mean, I've done this I'm sitting on my own lab coat, in record time. It's weirdly loud and dusty, but that's a bird feeder for feeding birds. Ta-da! The question becomes what seed do you want to put in? As I said, I'm feeding, I mean, this is just an aside before I do the conclusion. Different birds take different seeds. Like the regular bird seed is just regular bird seed, but finches in particular like a specific type of food which is very expensive. It's like $10 a bag for this little tiny bag of thistle seed. And these aren't thistles like those spiky things that grow out of the ground here in New York. This is a type of specialized foreign tropical grain. Oh boy, that's a name. Guizotia abyssinis. Guizotia, got that, genus, basic Guizotia, whatever that is. Abyssinica, Guizotia abyssinica, for bird feeding purposes, not for planting. In fact, this is a relatively common plant, apparently in India, that's where it's grown. It is a super and duper invasive weed in the United States. So if this were viable seed, would be environmentally devastating. Fortunately, when they produce it, they heat treat it and basically cook it so that it's sterilized. Some actually put it through a gamma irradiator and just zap them. 1 or 2 seeds might grow, but they'll always be weak and die. So this seed is not plantable, it will not grow, but it is very much enjoyed by finches. There's one on the front. That would be a massive finch, like a beastly finch to have one that big. They're like half or a quarter that size. That would just be enormous. I am kind of interested in this seed. I haven't played with this seed in probably decades. It's black, small little seeds. I kind of wonder about it though. Actually, it's very tasty. Actually, that's really good. I mean, you're not supposed to eat bird seed, but you can. Interesting thing, it's a good emergency food because it's super cheap, readily available, and usually edible. Like, think about this. Imagine buying sunflower seeds for food. You get the little packs and they're like $1. I can get a 50-pound bag of bird sunflower seed for 20 bucks, 50 pounds. That'll feed you for a while in an emergency. It has a lot of calories. This actually, if I had to describe to you the flavor, is very similar in taste to sunflower seeds. Which if you don't know what a sunflower seed tastes like, slightly nutty, and a little earthy, but there's also a bitterness. Not overwhelming, but slight. I mean, it's really tasty. Ooh. Okay, I got a bad one. You know how if you order mixed nuts, like the big Planters tub, and you're going through, you got the hazelnuts, which are actually filberts. I call them filberts. They are filberts, but they're hazelnuts. Little round guys. Kind of the worst nut. Like they say the peanut is the worst nut because there's a lot of them, but peanuts are almost inevitably good. And sometimes you go through those filberts and you get the bad filbert where it's rotten in the middle and you just I got one of those, but they're really tiny, so it wasn't that bad. Specially selected seed with a high oil content to attract finches, songbirds, siskins, chickadees, mourning doves, and tufted titmice. What the world is a tufted titmice? Oh, I got a little picture of him. He's adorable. Regardless, I will have to load this thing with seed once I've sealed the bottom and then send it outside. I will have that, I think, as the thumbnail for this video. I'll probably hang it in my outdoor shed. I have a cage shed, which I use for hanging various things. My mouth is full of seeds, so I'm going to go and do something else and get this ready for tomorrow so I can feed them finches and the titmice. Extra.